Now, COVID-19 numbers are not looking good. In fact, I think that's an understatement. They're looking actually very bad at this stage. Health Minister Dr. Zweli Mkhzi has identified activities that draw large crowds as super spreader events. But festivals and concerts are a big part of the festive season. This morning now, let's discuss the role and responsibility of event organizers in the fight against the coronavirus. I'm joined now by Homecoming Events founder Katlego Malachi. Ntate Malachi, good morning. Thank you very much for your time. I'm sure when you woke up, or last night when you heard Dr. Mkhzi talking about the second wave, you must have become a little bit nervous, especially when you heard that some events tend to be super spreaders of the coronavirus, and currently the cabinet is discussing recommendations on how to go forward. What would you do now to make sure that your events, like you promote, and also people in your industry, must curb the spread of the virus?
Yes, look, thank you for speaking to me this morning. I don't think it came as much of a shock to anybody. I think we knew that at some point, the second wave would come and that events would be singled out as what we prefer to refer to as potential super spreaders, and not necessarily super spreaders by default, based on how event organizers and their patrons are adhering to the guidelines for, COVID-19, the regulations that's set out by government. So, for our company in particular, we've run about 20 events since level one. All without incident, simply because of an appetite to comply. But we know that is not the case across the board. And as such, we've been engaging on numerous platforms with colleagues in the industry to sort of give advice, and also just to find more solutions on ways in which we can further ensure that people do comply with the numbers, limitations, do comply with sanitizing and all protocols. Currently even speaking about incorporating the app as a prerequisite for people to enter events, so that, can ensure that you're able to track people's data. So the industry is aware of the challenges, and most are doing the best that they can to ensure that they up their ability to regulate.
I think then the core of the issue is going to be in that ability, that capacity to enforce the regulations, because the regulations under level lockdown for gatherings are very clear. And I'm just reading here on my device what they say, that every person, for example, who attends a gathering like an event must wear a face mask, adhere to all health protocols, maintain a distance of at least 1.5 meters. Now, when people are at an event and the people are happy and there's a consumption of alcohol and people are celebrating with their champompos and all those kind of things, I mean, how do you ensure as an event organizer that the 1.5 meter, for example, distance is kept between them? It's very difficult.
Well, I mean, I think even when it comes to that 1.5 meters, we would need to also encourage society at large not to be hypocritical. Nobody is standing at 1.5 meters in their very own, homes or in restaurants. People aren't sitting 1.5 meters apart from each other. I think what we ought to be looking at is reasonable distancing, and the ability to enforce reasonable distancing is based on your ability to comply with the numbers limitations. So reasonable distancing is based on the kind of space that you have. And I know in venues where people are not sort of adhering to that, they are citing the fact that, government is coming with these regulations which are limiting the numbers and the ability to generate income, whereas they were not able within the 6-7 month lockdown period to provide any assistance. And so the government is going to need to find and meet people halfway, not necessarily to incentivize them to adhere to those regulations, but to sort of say, look, we understand what the impact of this is, and this is how we're coming to the party to ensure that, people... Yeah.
Would you welcome
comply.
Would you welcome more restrictions in this regard in one particular aspect? According to the level 1 lockdown kind of guidelines or restrictions, is that if you have a concert or a live performance, it's now limited to 250 persons or less if it's an indoor gathering, and 500 persons or less if it's outdoor, or there's that 50% cap. If they reduce those numbers, would you be happy as an events promoter?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And because, we can have the academic conversation from a medical perspective around what sort of numbers make sense and don't make sense. But we also need to be very cognizant of the fact that we are speaking about people's livelihoods, quite a broad ecosystem, actually, of people's livelihoods, all the way from the organizers down to the security guards and the people who work in the kitchen at these events. So I think for government to come up with regulations of that nature, they would be supported if the Department of Arts and Culture was able to come out and say, this is the sort of relief that we'll be able to assist the industry with. But to simply say, we're going to cut down numbers and continue to cut down on the entertainment industry without any relief, I think that would be rather unfortunate, and it might have consequences where people simply don't adhere.
Thank you very much. Homecoming Events founder, events promoter Katlego Malachi, for your views this morning as we are now in the grips of the second wave of COVID-19. He's rather looking for more relief and sensible approach rather than more restrictions. We'll have to wait and see what Cabinet comes up with later today as they consider the recommendations by Dr. Zweli Mkhzi and his health department's team. Now,